Hi everyone, Big Thinny Pac Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Young Lean and Bladee album, Psykos. New surprise collab album between two of the biggest figures in the modern day Scandinavian music scene. That would be Young Lean and Bladee. For years, these two have pioneered in the terminally online fields of cloud rap, emo trap, and experimental hip hop. 2024 marks 10 years now since the release of Young Lean's debut full-length album, Unknown Memory, and it's also coming up on a decade since the release of Bladee's Ever Since too. Over this course of time, these two have collaborated, crossed over, and inspired one another, which is why it's such a monumental occasion for them to both be doing an entire album together, even if it's only 8 tracks and just 22 minutes of runtime. Interestingly, I think Bladee and Lean kind of threw us for a loop on this one, cause I think some might have expected them to feed into fan expectations and essentially give us some vocal riffing over a bunch of trap instrumentals that have watery synth passages and feel like you are traveling at light speed through space or the sea, or maybe some kind of online liminal space. But Psykos is actually kind of more of a rock album with an array of heavy, jangly, psychedelic, and occasionally punky guitar bits. What the vibe is really depends on the track, and I would say the quality of the song really depends on the track too. The opener Cota, for example, is kind of a non-starter for me, cause it's an overly dramatic spoken word cut that weirdly enough kind of sounds like something Mark Kozlek would do on a Sun Kill Moon album several years ago, but much, much worse. This track to me just reads as very derivative and lacking. And while the following track, Ghosts, does have more of a pulse to it, Blade's singing is just so obviously flat, painfully flat, to where it really could have used another take. Yeah, this one is mostly a miss, even if I do like those sparkling guitar layers, and Lean does have a very impassioned vocal performance on the track that I think goes over well. Moving on from here, Golden God is the first real bop on the album. It is a moody, gothed out piece of post-punk with tight drum sequences, plucky guitar leads too. Lean and Bladee trade off with these pretty cool talk-sung vocal passages that, even if I'm not crazy about the EQing on them, as it does leave in maybe a bit too much bass, I can't deny that there is a chemistry there, and some great pacing on the track too. Sadly, the momentum built up by this track does not carry on deeper into the record, as the song still brings a lot of the same vocal issues Ghosts did, but this time worse, given that now Young Lean is kind of veering too far out of the pitch lane. And while I know that him and a lot of his collaborators in the Drain Gang sphere tend to have a very loose approach when it comes to vocal performances, I still don't really see the appeal here, as performing in this way has little effect outside of coming across obnoxious. For me personally, the record works best when its songs are at their most straightforward and punchy, oddly. The song Sold Out is about the closest this album gets to a piece of genuine pop rock. The riffs and structure are really solid, and it's cool to hear Lean and Bladee in a somewhat carefree place on this one. The surreal lyrics on the track are pretty sick too. And then Hanging from the Bridge has similarly positive qualities to it, and the best chorus on the entire record to boot. Not only in terms of the singing performances Lean and Bladee lend to it, but the melodic leads as well. Past this point, the record does not have a super strong ending, as Enemy to my ears just kind of comes across like a formless, distorted mess. The mix is off, the guitars are just kind of taking over everything, and the singing is just subpar doesn't describe it. And then the closing track, Things Happen, feels like a piece of very mediocre, awkward Elliott Smith worship. Those acoustic guitars are really a dead giveaway. But yeah, sadly not really crazy about this one. I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad Bladee and Lean did it, but respectively, I don't see this as a highlight in either of their catalogs. They have both on their own come out with far better albums. It's certainly not the best solo album or collab album Bladee has done, as the recent one with Echo 2K kind of washes it. But it's interesting that it happened, and that Bladee and Lean operated outside of their comfort zones a bit. There were a few highlights in the track list for sure, but as an overall project, On a macro level, there's not really much to glean from it. It's just a very short, very spotty release, no more, no less. Feeling a light to decent 5 on this one. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. Please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Bladee, Young Lean, forever.